welcome back to another episode of No Holding Back the podcast with me, your girl Taylor T. This is a podcast where we spotlight the highs and the lows that creators face on their journey to success. And today I had the awesome opportunity of speaking with Miss Leah Henry. So for today's episode, we're talking about her journey through media and all it took for her to be a success, not only here in the DMV, but in Columbus as well. And now she's moving on to something fresh and something new. And I'm so excited for you all to be able to learn from her story and possibly apply it to yourself as well. So without further ado, here is another episode of No Holding Back, the podcast. Oh, Miss Leah Henry. Welcome to No Holding Back.
Hi.
Yes, I am so happy to have you for a million different reasons. But for one, I am a huge fan.
Girl, you're not a friend. You're a friend.
Oh, okay. I am a huge friend. I'm a friend. I'm a fan.
Okay. Fair.
I am a number one fan, huge supporter of not just your brand, but of your family. I love seeing the family content. I love to see Turtle on my IG story. He is the cutest little baby. But other than that, I'm so happy to have you on No Holding Back. I think the value that you'll be able to bring today is so valuable for the girls who are trying to do what you do on the scale in which you're doing it. So for those who might not know who you are, I would love for you to just introduce who Leah is and what her brand is.
What is my brand? God, no, I'm kidding.
Girl.
I'm Leah Henry. I am a multimedia host and producer. I've done radio. I've done television. I've have my own digital brand called Leah's Lemonade that probably most people are familiar with. And I'm starting a new podcast. It's called Okay And with Leah Henry. But I think my brand is in an evolution phase, actually.
Ooh.
I think, again, people know me for Leah's Lemonade, and that's something that I've become very popular for. And that was like a lot of celebrity interviews and a lot of viral interviews over the year. But now I'm trying to let people get to know Leah Henry a little bit more. So I'm excited. I think there's a transition afoot, and I'm excited for people to see that.
Okay, so I'm so glad you brought that up, because I'm curious, beyond, you being on air and on television and building this brand that involves celebrities and things like that, who is Leah when she is at home with her family and having a good time?
That's a great question. I think over the years, I have had to learn that. I think moving to Columbus, Ohio from the DMV was where I really learned that I had not really figured out who I was without all of the things. Because when I left the DMV at the top of 2023, I was sitting on top of this career that was getting a lot of recognition. People knew who I was. My interviews were in blogs all the time.
Right.
My brand was growing very rapidly, and I took this job in Columbus, Ohio. And I remember moving there, and there was so much that happened when I first got there. And I remember getting there, and it was like, wow, this is a different type of experience when the lights turn off and nobody knows who you are. You don't have friends. You don't have family. You don't have the things that you feel supported most in. And so it really made me reevaluate, Leah, what do you like to do? What do you enjoy doing besides just this? Because at some points when I moved to Columbus, I realized just this was not all that it was cracked up to be, nor was it all that I desired it to be. And so trying to figure out what are those things that make me happy regardless. I felt like I did a lot of soul searching. So to answer your question, I think that I've learned that there are core values and things that I love that truly make me happy. I'm a very adventurous person. I do things for the plot. I'm a little chaotic. A lot of my friends say I'm chaotic, but I just like to have new experiences. I've always been a person that has been no matter what circumstances I have in life, I always want to feel like I tried and that I did the things that I desire to do. I never want to look back and be like, what if, which is one of the biggest reasons why I left the DMV. A lot of people were like, why the hell would you leave DC with this type of career? But for me, I was like, okay, I could stay in DC after 10 years of building a career and know what this is like. But what if going to Columbus was the precipice of what I needed to go to the next level? Or what if it was something that I had to learn along the way? And I never wanted to look back and be like, what if I would have took that job in Columbus, Ohio? What if, that would have been my big break? What if, I just don't want to ever live with what if. So I think when I say transition, I think that is me learning and living through experiences, if that makes sense.
That makes complete sense. You're very advantageous. Is that the word?
Yes.
Yeah.
Adventurous.
Adventurous, advantageous. Look at me trying to use big words. And got it wrong. But you're very adventurous. And to that, you also have a very big personality. And I feel like there's a connection there. And with how you in relation to your family and how big your family is and how you all come together and celebrate and have a good time. So do you feel that there's any connection in the way that you show up with your family and how you show up in media and how you've been able to bring your whole self to that space?
Yeah, I think, I grew up in a very, very big family. Like my grandparents were very big on us sticking together. Like, when I was talking to my mom one time and we were talking about like growing up, she didn't have friends. She had cousins. You know what I mean? Like they didn't grow up getting to have a lot of outside friends. We had a very large family. And so like my grandparents really instilled in their children, like family is first. And so I grew up with this very, very, very big family on my mother's side. And we've just always rolled like that. It's always been a lot of us. It's always big family dinners. It's always big, but that's like how our grandparents were. Like we would go to church on Sunday and my grandma would cook and we would all sit at a table. You know what I mean? Those were the types of values that I grew up with. So, we were loud, we were crazy. Probably need a reality show, honestly. They
I was
gonna
say y'all need some kind of reality show. I feel it because your story. If I could feel that through your IG stories, I just know there is more on the other side of that.
Girl, my family couldn't handle it, baby. As soon as somebody say something negative about them, they gonna be in the chat like, cause I said y'all wouldn't even be able to take confessionals. Y'all are too fucking crazy.
I'm weak.
But but that's really who we are. We're crazy as hell. I couldn't, you just have to see it to see the chaos. It's always crazy. It's always fun, but there's a lot of love and there's a lot of fights and there's a lot of everything. But it just, you kind of reel your way through that and kind of just understand. I would credit my personality type a little bit to my cousin D. She's kind of the crazy one. If you look on social media, that's Turtle's grandma.
Okay.
But I was around her a lot when I was younger, and Dee was a person who was very outspoken. She always joked around. When I was a kid, she used to always prank phone call people. That was something that like I always remembered about her. And she always taught me to never be afraid to ask. I think she was one of the first people. We would go to a drive-thru and get food, and they'd take forever, and she'd be like, "Oh, I guess you could give me a soda while I sit here and wait so long."
Oh,
you know what I mean? But like,
I'm gonna leave here with something.
Hello, I'm from around the way.
Yes.
I'm leaving here with something.
Yes.
But like those types of moments, even as a young child, taught me like, what do you lose if you ask? You know what I mean? And those things translate, like you said, to like even being in media. Sometimes I just haven't been afraid because sometimes asking is better than not asking and never knowing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I can tell you that is a very true attribute that you have. I got the pleasure of, we saw each other in New Orleans for Essence Festival, and the way I saw you go after talent to interview for your publication that you were doing media for, I'm like, Leah's not afraid to go out here and ask questions and ask her what she want. And you got what you wanted at the end of the day. Like you walked away with how many interviews that day?
Yeah, who knows? Yeah. Essence is tiring as hell.
It's tiring, but you have to be relentless in that way and not be afraid to ask for what you want.
Yeah, absolutely.
So with that, I do want to go into, you deciding to go into journalism. What really drew you to want to study journalism specifically at Howard University?
So funny story is that I was afraid. So when I went to high school, I was like, I'm going to go to Howard. Like my sophomore year, I knew Howard was for me. I knew that was where I wanted to go to school. And so I worked really, really hard to like raise my GPA. My first year in school, I kind of didn't care. And then I started to care. You know what I mean? Like out of nowhere, I was just like, you know what? No, I want to be great. And so I really started to focus on grades. And then Howard was the only school. I didn't care. I didn't really care to apply to other schools. I didn't care about anything. And I didn't get in. And so I was devastated, right? And so I had planned to just go to community college in Austin, go to Austin Community College, and then just transfer to the University of Texas. I was going to call it a day. And my mom turned to me and was like, "You will not stay here."
Wow.
Not an option. You will not stay here. Figure it out, but you won't stay here. And I was like, okay. And so I played soccer in high school. And so I had a soccer coach who was like, you are good enough to at least play D2. He was like, I'm going to reach out to some coaches and, see what happens. And so he reached out to a coach at the University of Bridgeport. He just went on Wikipedia and started emailing all the coaches at the different schools. But a coach from the University of Bridgeport reached out. So there was like, I think this school called Quinnipiac.
Familiar.
Yep, Quinnipiac, and then University of Bridgeport responded, and I applied to both of those, but I didn't choose Quinnipiac because it was a Christian school, and I felt like it wouldn't transfer to Howard. Because I was going to Howard regardless, you know what I mean?
Okay, so that was always a part of the plan.
Yeah, it was always a part of the plan.
Yeah.
So when I got to University of Bridgeport, which a lot of people don't know this because I rep Howard so hard, but when I went to University of Bridgeport in Connecticut, I was going to do advertisement. I wasn't going to be a journalist because after not getting into Howard, I questioned myself a lot. I felt like I wasn't good enough. I felt like my writing wasn't strong enough. I felt like, I couldn't do the things that I thought I was going to do, right? And so I knew I wanted to be in communications, but I figured, I'll just do advertisement. Advertisement is cool because I'll make commercials, but I'll put myself in them, right? Because what kind of logic is that? But that's what I told myself. So I was like, okay, I'll do advertisement. So my first year at UB, I did advertisement. It was cool, Okay, but then as I got closer to transferring to Howard, I was like, Leah, you know what? Like after you worked so hard to get into Howard, didn't get into it, and then you made a decision that you were going to go to Howard, that was the moment where I was like, I'm going to pursue my actual dreams, which is I want to be on TV. I want to be on radio. Like I want to be a talent. Like I don't want to be a advertiser who just sneaks myself in commercials. You know what I mean? Like this is not what you really want to do. And so when I transferred to Howard, I was like, okay, I'm just going to do the journalism thing. And it was very scary for me. It took me going through Howard and having a professor who was like, you're a great writer. And I was like, who, me? And she's like, you're a great writer.
Who was that?
Yeah, Jennifer Thomas.
Jennifer Thomas.
Shout out to JT.
Shout out to JT.
But yeah, she pulled me aside and was like, Leah, this was a really, really good blog. And I was like, really? And she's like, yeah. And because I remember when I went to UB, I had this white professor who was an author. And he said to me in class, which is why it's so important that teachers should edify their students. And he didn't say it in a negative way, but it stuck with me. He was like, every time I read your work, it sounds like it's you. And I didn't really know how to take that. Like, I was like, is it a bad thing that I sound like myself? But he was a published author, which, at the time, I didn't know anybody could be a damn published author. But, an author is telling me something negative about my writing, right? And so...
Oh, so you confirmed that was negative, that you sound like yourself.
Well, I assumed it was negative. I didn't know how to take it because I already was insecure. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I didn't get into my dream school. Maybe that was even me projecting, you know what I mean? Like in hindsight, like maybe he was just saying like, I read this and it sounds like you. He didn't say it like yelling or in a negative way, but it didn't feel positive or edifying to me. But all that being said is my whole first year through college up until that point at Howard where Professor Thomas said, you write well, I was walking through life thinking I'm just subpar, you know what I mean? Like, oh, I must not be able to write. And to be fair, when I look back at the essay that I submitted to get into Howard versus the one that I submitted to transfer, the writing did grow drastically. So, I'll give it to the guy. He definitely helped me become a better writer. But with that being said, even with that kind of in my mind, when I got to the journalism program, I was tiptoeing. Every article I wrote, everything that I did, I was like, this is probably horrible because I sound like myself, which at the time I thought it was bad.
Yeah.
And, it took Professor Thomas to be like, you're a great writer. And I was like, when she said that, I was like, who? You're talking about me? And she's like, yeah, that blog was really good. And I was like, really?
Yeah.
And those types of things make me super grateful for Howard because there were so many things that made me question whether I was even good enough to be there after not getting in the first time. Like sometimes I used to walk around and feel like an imposter because I was like, I really didn't make it, even though I did.
Yeah.
Because I was like, dang, like everybody who's here probably just got in the first time. They had the grades, they had the SAT scores. Really, it was the SAT scores. That was the reason I didn't. I suck at standardized tests. But because I got a $30,000 scholarship at the University of Bridgeport. So I wasn't stupid. It just, I wasn't good at the SATs. But, you know, it just left me walking through Howard questioning whether I was good enough until I had a professor to be like, you are good enough. In fact, you're very good. And, you know, that is what changed everything for me. But when I was going to Howard, like, because of that, I really spent a lot of time with my head down at Howard. Cause I was like, I like, it's not it's a privilege to be here. You know what I mean? Like, I got this opportunity. I can't lose, you know? I like tried so hard to get here. So Howard was a journey, but it gave me a different type of hunger. I think if I would have gotten into Howard the first time, I would have bullshitted and partied.
You wouldn't have been focused.
It took me failing and coming back to get that grit about me that I think has still carried throughout my tenure as a media professional.
Yeah, and you can definitely see that in the work that you produced while you were at Howard. So I transferred to Howard in 2018 from a junior college in California. And in my journalism classes with Jennifer Thomas, you know how she likes to show examples of previous work. And every class that I had with Jennifer Thomas, she showed one of your news packages.
Oh, gosh.
And she talked about you, saying, you know, everything that you did right and why this was really good, and used you as an example. So, you know, like, that's a way for you to understand, like, the work definitely did show, and you definitely left a mark on the journalism program as a whole. And when Jennifer Thomas is showing your news packages, that means that you did something.
Okay, because she would tear you up.
She would tear you up. And so, listen, do you know how many times she had to pull me to her office? Now, I'm going to need you to redo this, and I'm going to give you until tomorrow. And I'm like, I guess. Okay. And I'll walk out so mad, but so appreciative.
Yes.
At how, you know, super particular she was, because she was training the next generation of media people.
Yeah.
And we had to know those things.
Yeah.
And so I'm just curious, in what ways do you feel the journalism department, or it could be just Jennifer Thomas alone, really shaped you to be the journalist that you are today?
Yeah, I think Howard's journalism program, you know, we make magic with minimal. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And I think that, you know, if we were able to get the type of product and resources that some of these PWIs have for their journalism programs, how much more better the students would be.
Oof.
Like, think of the Emmy winners and the Peabody Award winners and the AP winners that we have from Howard University, and we didn't even have as much as, you know, some of these other schools. Howard truly teaches you how to be a one of the kind journalist. I just, you know, I don't think my career would even look the way it has looked had it not been for Howard's journalism school. It was very tedious. It was very, it was hard, you know? Like, I remember I wanted to minor in business, and my advisor, Miss Williams, she was like, oh, baby, you can't do School of B and School of C. Journalism too hard. Like, I'm going to tell you now, you gonna fail trying to do both of these. So just find you a cute little minor, because journalism's going to eat you up.
And I was minor in?
Sociology.
Okay.
But I ended up loving that, so I'm glad I did. But, you know, it was really tedious. But, like, I became an instructor. I worked at the Ohio Media School while I was there, and watching the differences and the leniency that we had versus what I experienced at Howard, I was like, oh, baby, y'all could never. The way y'all, like, we giving y'all 4 weeks to do a package. Jennifer would have us come into the classroom and then be like, go write a package.
4 weeks to do a package?
One, yeah. It's a little different. I ain't gonna talk too bad about them, but it's a little different of a structure. But I still think that, you know, compared to the rigor of Howard University, it was just very different. It made me very dog eat dog, and it made me very hungry. Like, I did Spotlight News, which was Howard University's student-run news station, and Spotlight really helped me because I was able to kind of learn those things before the journalism class. And I think that's why Professor Thomas kind of saw the differentiation between me and some of my, you know,
your peers.
My peers, because I was doing packages and working on this stuff before, which I still had stuff to learn, but those types of things and resources. And then it's Howard University, right? Some of the stuff you get to cover, some of the things you get to do. Like, I was interviewing celebrities at 19, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
On a consistent basis at the radio station. Like, you just don't get that type of experience everywhere. And so Howard, the School of C, WHBC, the student radio station, Spotlight News, WHUR, WHUT, having those resources on that campus really help the students out. So I think that so much of my career is owed to Howard University, the School of Communications, Professor Thomas, because I mean, I wouldn't be sitting in the seats that I've been without that, for sure.
Absolutely. And so while you were at Howard, was there a defining moment that was like, oh, I could really make a career out of being on radio and being a host, and I could really do this thing? Because I know you had the thoughts before you got to Howard and it really helped you keep your head down. But was there a solidifying moment that you knew you can do this for real?
It was graduating. Graduating was the moment for me because
Wow.
I didn't get in. I didn't get in. Going to Howard University and graduating from Howard University was the first time in my life that I ever had a dream and accomplished it. The first time I ever thought about something and wanting it really, really bad, worked towards it, and actually accomplished it. And there's a feeling that comes with moments like that in your life where you're like, oh my God, I wanted to do something and I did it. You know what I mean? Like,
Super gratifying.
There's a gratification that comes with accomplishing a goal. And like Howard was the first time, and don't get me wrong, like I've run a mile in under 10 minutes. Those are different types of things. But I'm talking about something you put blood, sweat, tears, you cried, you lost sleep for, that it happened. Like, I just felt, I was the first person on my dad's side to even graduate college. You know what I mean? So it was like, I'm graduating from my dream school. I did it. The transfer struggle. It's hard to be a transfer and graduate in 4 years.
I know that when you were working in media and now you've been able to build this brand of Leah's Lemonade and you're in this transition period and you found your voice in media, but when did you really notice that, okay, this is who I am, and this is the personality type that I could bring to this space, and this is my differentiator amongst a sea of other young Black women who are doing the same thing?
Yeah, I think for a long time I've always known that I was just very different from people. I think like my ability to make people laugh and my ability to demand presence has always been different. So I never, through my life, first of all, I'm a plus size Black woman. My experience will never be like most. You know what I mean?
Yeah, understood.
I have never had a traditional experience, whether that be being a woman, being Black, or being a plus size person. So, all of those intertwined minorities, if you will, have made me different. You know what I mean? I've never seen myself in the eyes of like the whole, whether that is in the Black community, whether that is women, whether that is, my body type. So I think for a long time, I've always felt just like different in that capacity and knew that like my personality was going to be the thing that kind of glued me. So I never felt the need to be like anybody else. I do think when I first started out, it was kind of figuring out how do I take me and make it in a way that people can consume it or people see what I have to offer. I always knew there was a gift. Like I always, as a young girl, I always wanted to be on TV. Like I knew that I wanted to work in media. Like that was never a question for me. I knew I wanted to be on TV. I used to want to be a singer actually when I was younger.
Okay.
Girl, that dream has lived and died. Amen. But no,
Amen.
I knew that I wanted to be on TV. I knew that I wanted to do this in some capacity. I knew that. But I think, just kind of what has made me different is I've been myself. I've never felt the need to like be like anybody else or try to mimic those things. I think when you're early in your career, of course, you look at people you're inspired by, but I've always tried to just be like, no, what do I think is cool? What do I think is funny? What do I think, kind of make something different? So I think those are the things. Like I've just never tried to conform in those ways when it comes to my brand and just like being who I am. That's the one thing I'm like comfortable in no matter what. Like this is Leah, you know what I mean? Like here's this, there's no box to put me in.
So I do want to talk about the grind of it all after graduation, because I think a lot of people, when they do graduate school, they think they're going to hop right into the media job and it's going to be there. You're going to apply. You're going to have all the things. You're going to work for a network. And, sometimes that happens for people and sometimes that doesn't.
Yep.
Now, it jogged my memory here, but I remember you had actually came to speak to one of my classes. I don't know if it was for Spotlight or for a class for JT. And you were talking about your journey and you were working at, this was before you got to a station. You were working at I want to say a
nursing
nursing
home?
home. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And you were saying that you're trying so hard to pivot out of it because it's just too long. Like you're not working in media, you're not doing your thing, and you were trying so hard, and then you end up getting a job at which network?
WJLA.
Yeah, yeah. So talk a little bit about that experience that you had and how hard it was for you to climb out of it to end up at WJLA.
Yeah, it was difficult. I felt like, Howard is a very braggadocious school. Everybody knows when you're doing something popping, right? So a lot of my classmates had already started getting roles. They had already started, getting these post-graduation jobs. And I felt like, dang, I'm talented, dang, and a lot of my colleagues or peers, they were on the journalism track. Like I did journalism, but I knew I wanted to do radio. So I'm like sending my little dusty air check at the time. I thought it was great, but it was dusty. I'm sending it out to all these radio stations, and I'm reaching out to these people in like Miami and Chicago, like all these big cities, because I'm thinking, oh, I've been working in DC for 4 years. Like everyone, like I just have this experience, which was very, very Howard-esque of me to think that I just knew all that.
Howard teaches you to think very highly of yourself, and I don't think
a little too highly sometimes. But yeah, you're right about that.
It does, yeah.
So, I'm sending my stuff out and like nothing is happening for me. So I, of course, because November comes around, them loans started knocking. So I'm like, the countdown is on. And this is where, again, I shout out Professor Thomas from the rooftops, because she had sent one of my news stories into NABJ. They have a student category, and so she had submitted my stuff I didn't even know this, to NABJ, and I got nominated, right? One of my packages, one of my news stories got selected, and so I wasn't even going to go to NABJ, but at that year, 2016, it was in DC. And so NABJ is very expensive, by the way. So I was like, oh, I don't know. I don't think I'm going to go. But then when I got nominated, I was like, well, Leah, you have to go. You know what I mean? I had been trying to get all these jobs. Nobody was really answering. So I had gotten to a point where I was living off credit cards. My parents were not helping me. I was staying in this student apartment, and I was like, I had August was when my lease was up, and I said, Leah, you're not going back home. You're going to go to NABJ, and you're going to leave with a job. Put your big girl panties on and let's go. And I will say, again, to shout out Howard, we used to have that communications job fair, internship fair.
Yes.
That used to intimidate the hell out of me when we were in school.
I don't think I ever went.
It was so intimidating.
I don't think I ever
Everybody's in these black suits. Everybody has their stuff. Everybody's popping their ish to all these recruiters. And people are coming, oh, I was talking to so-and-so from NBC. Oh, I was talking to somebody from ESPN. Like all these people are just coming out. They're like, oh, I got an internship. I got this, I got that. And it's like, you go, you talk to them and they're like, yeah, okay, nice to meet you. And then you're like, I'm not going to get a job. You know what I mean? I'm not going to get an internship. So that used to scare the hell out of me. But I'm not going to lie. Like, I think that kind of had me ready for that job fair at NABJ. Like I was able to work the room very confidently. And, I kind of led with, oh, I'm nominated for an award, And so I had just applied to a PA position, which is a production assistant position at WJLA in DC, which is very entry level. That is the most entry level you're going to get at that station. And so I was working at the time at Target, and I was working at a nursing home.
Wow.
And so just trying to pay my bills, honestly, because, time was up. I was using my credit card. It was getting real debtful, you know what I'm saying? So once the graduation money ran out, it was, it was real. So I was working at Target in the nursing home, and that week I went to NABJ. And I saw the recruiter for Sinclair, which is the parent company for WJLA. And I said, hey, we had a real good conversation. I said, I just submitted an application for a PA. And they were like, oh, well, we'll talk to the people locally. We'll do that. And so I was like, okay, great. So I connected with the people. The next week, I get an email from the director of content at the time from WJLA. And it was like, AP position, which PA is production assistant. AP is associate producer. Very different roles. And he was like, hey, someone from NABJ said that you were interested in this position. And it was for their entertainment show. So I was like, oh, now wait a minute. Hold on, Jesus.
The ears perked up. Entertainment. Okay.
So I'm like, but when I was in college, I wanted to be a radio girl. I didn't really give a dang about the news like that. Like I did my news work, but I didn't actually apply myself to when we did class projects and stuff. So being a producer was never the role I took. I was like, I'll do teleprompter. I'll write the script. I was never into the producing
Behind
thing.
The scenes, yeah.
So when it was like an AP, I was like, I didn't even practice in class. Like, what am I gonna say? So they gave me a interview day, and so what I did was I sat down every single day and watched the show and took mad notes. What stories they missed, what the host could have done better, what they could have talked about, what segments I would have done, what would have made it better. Because I said, Leah, if you're gonna walk in there with no experience in this, you have to sound like you're gonna bring some shit to it. You know what I mean? So I write down 7 days worth of the shows and critiques and notes and blah, blah, blah. So I come in there and the guy's like, well, I mean, what do you know? And I said, well, I'm going to be honest. I don't have much experience in producing, but what I will do is I'll give you this proposal and this is all my notes. And he was like, And I said, these are the things that I feel like they could have talked about. Here's stories they could have gone over. This is this, and this. And he was like, oh, wow. Okay. Well, he was like, well, what would you have talked about today? And I said, oh, well, there's this Twitter video. I don't know if it's real or not, but there was a video of Malia Obama smoking weed. And he was like, what? And he like turns in the middle of the thing. And he's like, I didn't see that. I was like, yeah, it's all over Twitter. And he was like, he was shocked that I was telling him something that he didn't know. And you're the director of content.
Wow.
So he was like, okay, I'm going to introduce you to the producer. So the producer comes in, we talk for a little bit, and come to find out, she looks at my resume and she goes, oh, I went to Howard. And so I was like,
you know what happens after that.
Oh, wow. So we, connect. And I said, listen, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know nothing about this, but I work really hard. I learn. I work. I'm just going to do my best. I was like, that I'll promise you. I can't tell you I'm going to know everything. You're going to have to teach me. You're going to have to have a little patience. But if you give me this job, I'll work very hard. And she was like, okay. And then I got a call and they were like, we're going to offer you the job. And so from that point on, and by the way, may I add, I still got paid. So,
That's a media job. That's
girl,
unfortunately,
it was slavery.
That is media. That is media.
Slavery.
It's, we get paid little to none, but do the most to entertain and make people feel something.
Long story short, I didn't leave that nursing home for a long ass time because I was still working there. I worked 4 jobs at JLA. I worked at JLA when I finally got on at the radio station, Urban One. I worked Urban One doing board opping. I worked at Salem Media Group, which is another radio station. They do conservative talk radio. I was a board op there, and then I also was at the nursing home.
Leah.
Yeah.
Hustling.
Slavery.
Hustling.
Slavery.
But I do want to take it back a little bit because you went into the interview being so prepared for, you don't even know what you're being prepared for, really and truly and honestly. Yeah. But you were able to add value. And how important do you think it is for someone to understand that, you can't just wait for somebody to tell you what your next marching orders are. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you kind of just got to make it up and come to the table with something.
Yeah.
And I think they gave you the opportunity because they saw, well, we didn't even ask her to do all this.
Right.
Well, here's the opportunity, I guess. But how important do you think it is for somebody to just not sit and twiddle their fingers, but to, be on top of what they think, they're supposed to do when they go for these types of roles? Because it's not a I apply to be a doctor or, very standard role. This is like, you kind of just got to do what you got to do and fake it till you make it, till you get it,
Yeah, I mean, I just think that nobody's going to give you ish in media. No one's going to give you ish in this world. And so you have to stand out. You have to go above and beyond. You have to kind of try to beat the pavement and hope that your opportunities will and your efforts will lead to something. I just think that, I'm one of those people who still like dies on the hill that sometimes you got to do free. I'm not talking about all the time. I'm not saying that you should go and do everything for free, but sometimes being in a room is more important than a dollar sign attached to sitting in the room. And so I'm a big proponent of sometimes you got to figure out what works best to get you to your goal. And sometimes that's not taking a paycheck every time. I can tell you countless times in my journey that I did for free that led to paycheck later. So, yeah, you have to go out. You have to be willing to do the that no one wants to do. And typically that's the free work.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can test the fact that the beginning stages of my career was also very much free. Mm-hmm. I'm like, how can I volunteer? Mm-hmm. How can I get in a room? And sometimes that just came from being the help or, you know, or can I offer some, what do you need, you know, making up a job for myself,
Yep.
or making up my own thing, or, you know, whatever it might be, because this industry is not an industry that you can just apply for a job and get it. It's
Yeah.
very much based off of what's on your resume, what is in a video, or what is in an air check. And if it ain't nothing, you're not getting the job.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That's just what it looks like. So for you accumulated all of this experience, and you were presented with the opportunity to go to Columbus after you finished your stint here in DC. So I would love to know about your experience there, and, you know, what did you learn from said experience from leaving DC, where you were doing all the things, to going to Columbus and working in radio.
Whew, girl, Columbus taught me a lot. Columbus stretched me in a way that I don't think DC would have ever stretched me. I think if I'd have stayed here the last 2 years, I'd have been comfortable. I think that, you know, I have built a decade of contacts and a decade of support and a decade of people who care about me and my brand. Going to Columbus was very humbling because I had to start over, and that's in every regard. That's from contacts, that's to opportunities, that's, you know, people learning who Leah is. Even though my brand is very viral, and there's probably a possibility that some of people who followed me lived in Columbus if they cared enough about whatever that content was, but it's a totally different thing to move and uproot your life and go to a different city and expect to grow a brand. It's very hard. I think people also think that things just simply translate, and they don't. I think, you know, that's the misconception about social media. That's why there's influencers who can put out a clothing line and they only sell 10 shirts, because influence and popularity are two different things. Popularity is followers. Influence is getting people to actually purchase and or do the call to action. And a lot of people don't know the difference. I think that I have a popularity. I don't necessarily think that I'm an influencer. And I don't say that to take anything away from myself, but when you talk about now going to a different place and trying to get people to be on the same type of, you know, mindset that I had people here in the DMV, it's a little bit harder. You know what I mean? People in the DMV really saw me grow as a personality. I started at WJLA doing little segments on my talk show every once in a while, to then being on KYS on the weekends, and people heard me on KYS for years and years and years to like accumulate. Then before I left, I started to do Fox 5, and people started to see me on TV here. So again, people have grown with me here. You have to grow a brand, and I think that people fail to realize that due to like the instant gratification of the internet. So going to Columbus was humbling because I had to grow my shit. Like I had to literally start all the way over.
Nobody
and just because
knew you, yeah.
you have 20,000 followers, it does not translate to people with you in a totally different city. On top of the fact that I had so many traumatic ass experiences in Columbus, it was hard for me to want to grow in the city as well, because I just felt like I had a chip on my shoulder about the experience. From a professional standpoint, my boss was a hater, to
Oh no.
even just things that I had witnessed there. I just felt like it was really hard for me to be positive about Columbus and be a radio personality, because it was like, you're supposed to be the people's champ on the radio. You're supposed to advocate for the city. You're supposed to be about the city. But people didn't know me and I didn't know them. And so it was really a stretching point for me going to Columbus, because DC it's comfortable. It's home. I know how DC moves. I know how the residents think. I know how people engage with the radio. I know what makes them tick. I know what will get people's attention. I know what makes people call in. I know what people like to see on their TVs. People in DC are very, very, very like in a routine. Like you can kind of get what you're going to get from people in DC. Columbus was very different for me. I had to really like do it all over again. And it was a lot harder than I think I anticipated. Starting over, people don't talk about how hard it is to make friends in your 30s. And I know that sounds like very immature.
No, it's not actually, and I totally can understand.
Because, well, when you're in college or you're in a city where you have a lot of friends, because I went to Howard, so of course there's a lot of connections within Howard in this community in the DMV, but there's also, you know, people you just meet along the way. I built a network. So going to Columbus and not having any friends other than my coworkers was a hard pill to swallow. You know what I mean? It was hard for me to like make community and feel comfortable there, because I couldn't really like connect with people. I had a very difficult time. It's also hard for me, and this is just a me thing, but as a media personality, I have always my guard up with people when I meet them in settings where I'm being a media personality. If I meet you at a bar and we're just having a casual conversation, that's different. But I likely wouldn't even bring up that I do media. But if I'm meeting you at a station event, I'm likely not going to really be your friend in real life, because most people can't differentiate who they believe you to be versus like who you actually are.
Absolutely.
And those are two different things, which, you know, from a public standpoint, people don't necessarily get all the time. So it was hard for me to make friends, because really all I was doing was going to work and going home. So Columbus stretched the hell out of me. DC has a certain level of move and shake about it. You know, in DC, I can navigate things a lot easier. In Columbus, people weren't bringing their hip hop artists to me at a radio station. It just wasn't the same thing, you know? So yeah, Columbus, it rocked my ass.
And were you also trying to brand the station as well as something that people could recognize when they do see your name out there?
At one point I was.
Okay.
But my boss and I got to a point where I started to realize that it turned into me versus him, and I just wasn't comfortable putting what I built into an entity that can't support me. So I just wasn't comfortable past a certain point continuing to put Leah's Lemonade on top of anything. Because one of the things that people fail to realize when you have a brand and you work for a media entity is that when you're on air, they own your image. That's what, when you look at the contracts, they own who you are, your name.
Yeah.
And you have to, if you're smart, you will have an attorney to go through and ensure that there are things that are yours that they can't use. Like for me, Leah's Lemonade is my own brand. I don't let nobody touch that, no matter who I work with. I'm very clear on that. So, you know, I could do that. But some of these people sign their name on the dotted line. And when you do that, these companies have control over your name, your likeness, and your entity.
Yeah.
And so people don't know that. And so that was something that I was like very, very, very clear about coming in to, you know, this role in Columbus. Like, this is my shit. So if I feel like my shit is not being honored, I'll still do your shit. But like, please know, Leah's Lemonade, bring that hoe back. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Like, this is my shit. So people don't, and that's unfortunate because media doesn't really pay enough and people don't really talk about shit like this openly. So there's a lot of people who get got. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I went to a live taping of a podcast. I forgot her name. She did it with the She's So Lucky podcast.
Mm-hmm.
You know who I'm talking about. She used to
Jeanette.
Mm-hmm. And she talked about how for a long time she couldn't do her podcast, or she couldn't even entertain the idea of it, because the network that she worked for would own her entire IP. Like, they would own anything she creates, and it was built into her contract. So she couldn't even think about dreaming outside of her job. She just had to do her job, and that was it. Mm-hmm. And even the whole idea of her being an influencer or, you know, accepting payment, because as a journalist,
you can't.
That's illegal.
Ethics.
That's absolutely illegal. So that was smart of you to build that into, you know, your working situation where you could still own Leah's. I don't know if it's the same for radio though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, radio's a little bit different because news, they see your face. So you are the brand. Not that radio is not, because radio isn't the same way. Like in radio, I could be fired for something I posted, right? Like, because my social media as a personality and the face of this station is still a reflection of the company. So there's like, you know, morality clauses and certain things like that for sure. But I was specific about that. Again, maybe some other people wouldn't or don't care, but I'm grateful for a lot of mentors in radio who literally gave me game. Hey, yo, we seeing that Leah's Lemonade shit pop off? Go get that trademarked. Go get that trademarked. It's going to cost you bread, but go do it. And I remember saving my little coins to get an attorney to do that far before people were talking about it. Because people put me on, yo, this radio station will try to take your shit and make money off the shit you came up with in your head. Go get that trademarked. Best decision I ever made.
Wow. So now you've gotten to the point where in your transition, you've left Columbus altogether. And so I would love to know, what was that process like for you? Because you did like a little mini IG series of like day XYZ of unemployment, day this of unemployment. I'm assuming that they had to go in another direction, or did you decide to leave?
No, I was laid off. So the company that I previously worked for, they let go of 5%, and I was a part of that 5%.
Wow.
So
Media.
Yep,
That's
media.
what it be. That's what it be.
It's unfortunately because a lot of media companies are being hit right now. A lot.
Especially radio.
Especially radio, and news too. People just don't talk about it. I decided when I got laid off, I just wasn't gonna be quiet. Like, I'm an over observer, so like I'm the type of girl who, like, if you post your man all over your feed and then you stop posting him, I notice. You know what I mean? Like, if you take a picture,
You one of them?
I am. You take a picture and your bed is on the floor. Why don't you have a bed frame? You know what I mean? I am. So
okay.
I just didn't want to be the girl, because I seen so many girls who got laid off with me, like sneaking around the fact that they got laid off. And again, it ain't everybody's business and everybody don't gotta do it the way that I do it. But I was like, why live quietly? Like, I just wanted to put it out there, and it's like, okay, world, I got laid off. Here we are. You know what I mean? And just go from there. But honestly, I was gonna leave Columbus. That was already going to happen for me. I was one foot out the door. I had really prayed, and I said, God, I want to move in the way that you would want me to move. Like, I might hate Columbus, but if it's something here that you want me to grasp from here, then I'll stay. I'll sign another contract. And I, at the top of the year, did a fast with my church. And I was like, okay, God, I'm listening. I'm going to, like, fast. I want to hear from you clearly, so it's your will, not mine. And so I started the fast, and the Sunday we started the fast, the first sermon was called Get to Stepping.
Ooh.
First sermon. And I said,
ooh,
heard you, Jesus. And every other sermon after that was like, Get to Stepping part 2, overstepped, like all these things. And I was just like, okay, I hear you clearly, God. So my contract was supposed to be up in March, and February I got laid off. And so I had mentally been preparing, like, okay, Leah, what is this going to look like when you leave? Like, what are you going to do? What do you want to do? And so I was like, all right, cool. I'm going to just kind of fool around till my lease is up in May. And then, be like, oh, okay. If they ask me about renewing the contract, I'll say, oh, have my attorney look over it, kind of BS till May so I can just get a check till it's time to go. But I felt like when I got laid off early in February before my contract was up, I felt like that was God saying to me, what is your posture going to be if it doesn't look like what I said it's supposed to be? Not what you thought it was going to be, but what I'm saying it's going to be. Yeah, you're going to leave, but you're going to leave with no solution. You're not going to have an income. You got to figure it out for 4 months.
But that's when the faith really starts.
And that's where it did. But I felt like that fast and that confirmation let me know I was going to be good. You know what I mean? Like, it was confirmed. So once I got laid off, and it's crazy because I was able to get a job at the Ohio Media School. Shout out to Sean Anthony. He's a personality who's been in Columbus for years, but he got me on there. So I knew it was very ordered because I never missed a bill. I never, missed a meal. I was employed the whole time. You know what I mean? So I just knew that, like, it was very divinely ordered. And I think God wanted to see, like, okay, I've given you instruction. It don't look like what you think it is. So now how do you operate and move? So, leaving Columbus was something that was already going to be done. It was just the way in which, in my head, it would have been, some grand goodbye and, oh, thank you, Columbus. But it was like, you got kicked to the curb, babe. Figure it out, So.
And that's probably the best thing for you because now you have your own platform titled OK Ann with Leah, right?
Yes.
And so how did that come about for you?
So funny enough, I actually, before I got laid off, like the week before I got laid off, I had just sat down with the people who were going to help me shoot the podcast. And I was like, yeah, I think it's time because the thing is I had a podcast before with someone popular, and it didn't work out. It was too hard for our schedules, and so I was kind of like, I don't want to do another podcast. Like, I'm not really pressed to do a podcast. And the guy Sean Anthony had reached out to me months before I got laid off and was like, yo, I think, like, we got the team here. Like, let me help you shoot something. I just think you could convert this content differently. And I was like, oh, okay, like, I just really wasn't trying to hear that shit. I was just kind of like, I want to get out of here. Like, I don't need anything else from here. Let me go. And then maybe, like, after the fast, I started to think about it. And I was like, nah, people really need to know what the hell has gone on. Like, people don't understand because I felt like, again, my career in the DMV was, like, up here. And then I went to Columbus and it got just really quiet. And so I was like, people have no idea. They probably just think I fell off or I just was tired. But there was so much that happened. And I was like, nah, people need to know for real what has gone on. And, like, unapologetically. And I think I'm glad that I didn't shoot the podcast employed, because had I done that, I still would have been protecting folk. And yeah, I'm not doing that with this. So
I love it. So we can expect honesty
yes,
from
very
your
raw.
podcast. What else can we expect?
I think people are going to be surprised, honestly. I think that people will not know a lot of the stuff that was going on. Like, I think people will be actually shocked, because it's one thing to see my public perception via social media. I think when people really see like all the things that were going on in the last 2 years, I think they're going to be a little shocked. I think they are.
I would love to know if you have any advice for anyone that's just trying to do what you're doing in the way that you're doing it. Is there something that is on your heart to give them?
I just always tell people, listen, your journey is your journey. Your journey is not going to look like yours. Your journey is not going to look like mine. Your journey is not going to look like anybody else's. You know what I mean? Like, I'm totally inspired by Oprah, but ain't look like Oprah, okay?
Wait.
You know what I mean? Like, ain't nothing been Oprah-like, especially the money.
I'm dead.
But she had to get to her own
She had to find
self-platform.
her own way. You know, she got fired. She's been all the things. So
I'm not gonna lie, there are a lot of parallels to Oprah. So I think that I'm Oprah's daughter, by the way.
Period.
Yes, I'm her illegitimate daughter, but I wouldn't say that to her. But that's what I say. That's what my Instagram bio says, at least.
You
but
crazy.
I know I would, if she sees it, I would die. But I mean, it's in there.
One day she will.
She probably will, but sorry, Mom.
I'm weak.
But there's a lot of parallels there. Like, Oprah got her start in Baltimore. I started radio in Baltimore. That was the first time I ever went on air by myself, was in Baltimore. She went to HBCU. Yeah, she was a journalist. You know, all the little things. You know what I mean? All the things. She went to the Midwest to start her own show. I went to the Midwest to start my own show. So yes,
crazy.
Yeah, I am. Anyway, but you know, all that being said, sorry to get back serious, but you know, everybody's journey is their own, and like, social media has really made it just a comparable ass, you know, community. Like, we compare to everybody else, everything everybody's doing. How did their video do? How many views did this? You know what I mean? We just compare everything, and we have to get out of that, because there's no one's journey is alike. Think of Jess Hilarious and Lauren LaRosa. They're both sitting on the Breakfast Club and got their two very different ways. You know what I mean? Jess started in Baltimore, Maryland, making videos on her phone, making fun of people, and now she's on a syndicated radio show, while Lauren LaRosa worked in the newsroom at TMZ.
Yeah.
So, like,
and how she got that TMZ job was even very unconventional as well.
Yeah, like,
it's crazy. Yeah.
It's just, but that's not the same way that Cache McClay, who worked at TMZ and now is the freaking Beyonce reporter for USA Today, started at TMZ. You know what I mean? Like, these journeys are not synonymous. That we are not the same. These things will never be the same. But you have to run your own race. Like, run your own race and run it to the best you can to your ability, because it just, you're never going to be able to do blank like blank and be, you know, as good as blank. You're going to be as good as you are at your shit. So do your shit. That's my advice. Do your shit.
Be authentic and be yourself.
Amen.
Absolutely. Well, Leah, we have made it to the end. We've made it actually to my segment that I like to call Claim It.
Okay.
So I have two questions for you.
Okay.
So the first one is, if you had to name this chapter you're walking into, what would you call it?
Refocus.
Why?
I think I'm just refocusing on like the things that are important to me, not even just from a media standpoint, but like, I'm getting sleep, I'm getting exercise, I'm getting to prioritize my body. I'm not mad at this break at all. Like, I think that there's a lot of people who would sit in my seat from a media standpoint and would be sweating bullets trying to figure out what they're doing. I'm just refocusing on my energy on the things that are important to me in life, whether that is family, whether that's, you know, making sure that my body is okay. Like, I don't want to be 40 and can't stretch. You know what I mean? Like, those are things that aren't things that I got to focus on when I worked in media. Media was my life, and I still love media. I still want to work in media, but I want to refocus how much of media that I give myself of, and then, you know, what is next and how does that look? What is my future? So I'm just refocusing on the things that I find important.
Absolutely. And last, what do you hope people walk away with, not just from your podcast, but from watching how you move through life and reinvention?
I hope that people gather to be authentically themselves and to be fearless. Like, I hope that when people see me, they're like, damn, that girl's not scared. She don't give a damn like what people think or may say. Like, she just moves to the beat of her own drum and is like unafraid to tackle things, even if they seem too big or even if they seem like something that's not obtainable. Like, I want people to know that, like, I just try to navigate through life, like trying to just get done and tackle it. Like, I feel like I'm a very free being.
You are
coded in OCD and type A personality, but I am at nature like an adventurous person, and I like just fun. I'm really a fun person. So yeah, just I hope y'all have fun and run free and say what the you think, because I'm gonna do that too.
Period. I love it. Well, thank you so much, Leah, for coming by No Holding Back. I know we've been chatting up for a bit,
Yes,
for
girl.
a minute, but I love it. The more information you give, the better it is for somebody else on the other end to receive your message.
Yes.
So they can go out and do what you're doing, and they don't have to experience the bad that we experience along the way.
And hold on, I got to give you your flowers too.
Oh.
Okay. Shout out to this podcast. This is amazing.
Well, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you for pursuing your dreams, because you stepped out of media. In that sense, at least. You're still working in media, but like, you know, it is scary to put your actually, you said something on social media the other day, and you said shout out to the views, and it was like 83, was it?
94.
94.
10
off, 11 off.
No,
but
it's
you
okay.
said I'll take it. That's an auditorium. That shit was dope to me, because people get so caught up in numbers. People get so caught up in like what other people think. And it's like, I have a homeboy, shout out to DJ Flo. He said this, he was like, social media is not real, because if 50 people walked up to you and said, I like your outfit, you look cute today, you would feel overwhelmed by people coming up to you and saying that, right?
Absolutely.
But we get sad when we see 50 people have liked a picture. We want more than 100 likes, but imagine 100 people coming to you and saying, great episode, Taylor.
Absolutely.
You would feel overwhelmed with love. So I just loved seeing that perspective, because that's going to be the perspective that keeps this growing. That's going to be the perspective that's not going to get you boggled down by numbers and what people say. Girl, if it touches 10 people, it is touching and changing lives. So you keep on. Shout out to this platform. Congratulations, and thank you for having me on.
Thank you so much. I so appreciate that, Leah.
Absolutely.
This is why you were perfect to be
Thank you.
sitting in this chair with me. I appreciate you, and I had such a good time.
I did too, girl. Thank you.
You're very welcome.